All right, well, let's get started. We recording everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna call the committee special meeting, February 3rd, 2022. I got 7:32. This is fine with me. We'll call to order. We'll go through the roll call. Mark, do you mind starting up here? And we have two folks on Zoom. If you can just state your name for the record for commissioners. Can they hear us?
I think so.
Doug and Nancy?
Jeff, this is Doug Porter. I can hear you,
Oh,
but we
I
are
can hear
very,
you.
and it's
My
not very
volume's all the
clear.
way up.
All right. Well, just for the record, while we're trying to get the audio set here, is Nancy Frazier's on Zoom and Doug is on Zoom. We do not have, what's this town of Woods? Oh, that's just us. We have nobody else on Zoom. So I don't know for the record that we have a quorum designation of alternates. We only have one alternate here. So Dean, oh no, actually we have two, Doug. And we're in need of alternate. So Dean Gould and Doug Porter, you guys are seated. Congratulations. This is why you came, right? Otherwise you would walk out the door. We'll note that for the record. And we have, he's away on vacation. He's out west. So we have the Pledge of Allegiance, which we can start out with.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. My report is real simple, which is the usual. Thank you, everybody. Just to remind folks, we have our business meeting in 2 weeks, and we have set up for that additional special meeting the week after. So otherwise, I don't have anything else for that. Sincerely, we get to what this meeting is about, which is the affordable housing plan update. So basically, here you have a presentation here. Okay, Doug?
Yes. We're having a difficult time hearing
We
you,
We
Jeff.
can't hear him.
We can't hear you. I'm trying to figure out why we have a connection issue.
Maybe his microphone is off.
My microphone's on. We're having
Nancy's muted.
difficulty.
Yes, he's muted.
Nancy, can you unmute to see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
We're not, I don't know why we can't hear. I can't hear them, but my volume looks like it's all the way up.
We're trying to figure out why we can't hear you guys. So we're trying to figure out the AV. So let's see what's going on here.
Can you guys talk now?
Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, we can hear you guys now. We fixed it.
All right.
It's Doug.
Okay. I would request that the camera be shifted so that we could see the chairman, please. Thank you. And I also would appreciate it if you talked close into the wherever the microphone is, because my experience with the Zoom meetings has not been positive. We only get part of the conversations. As you turn your head away from the microphone, we lose what you were saying.
Okay, we will do
Thank
that. I
you.
did, just so people know, I did look into if we could somehow get a microphone, better microphone set up and speakers. I was told that wouldn't work because of the acoustics in the room. They tried it evidently, and it created big echo and feedback. So
Well, I got to tell you, Jeff, I participate in a lot of Zoom meetings, and the Planning Commission is the worst meeting I participate in.
I don't know
All the
why
other
it-
towns have much better success with their Zoom meetings. They have their cameras set up so that you can see the entire commission and so that you can get a sense of what is happening at the meeting, not just the one individual that's running the connection for the Zoom.
Well, I'll follow up with Town Hall to see what better
arrangements we can make, but I did look into what better we could do for microphones and speakers, but I was told that wasn't going to work. One thing we might just do is see about what they have anyway here. I think the selectmen have something. Yeah, and we might just, they do it upstairs in the smaller room. But still, we could see they have a speaker microphone system that they set up on the table. I was trying to see if we could get that. So I think what we'll just need to do next meeting is just see if we can just. Yeah, if not, but we did look into it. As far as being able to see everything, I can find out from the folks upstairs what other arrangements we can make for video. I don't know what other videos we have here. Yeah, but I can always see if there is something that can otherwise try to be set up, Doug. But we'll follow up. Now, you aren't the only one who's mentioned about the issue with the connections and stuff, so we're trying to see what better we can do. So Ashley will go right now to find if we can find something, if we can connect now, but I will make a note tomorrow to follow up.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, so I don't think if we set up their speaker and microphone, it's going to be that bad of acoustics, because it's kind of set up right here at the table. So we'll see what more we can push on that, including video, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, was there something, was Nancy, did you have something, or is it just we were asking you to speak so we can make certain we could hear you?
I think you were just asking me to speak so we could make certain you could hear me, and I'm assuming you can hear me, yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, Delia, did you want to go ahead then? You have emailed out slides.
Weren't
So,
ready yet, but thanks.
look,
I hadn't intended them to be, they weren't finalized.
Something. So, then we're trying to get stuff out. For things, some things we're trying to get out to you guys electronically as soon as they come in. And we can always get printed copies, for folks who want printed copies. So, but otherwise, anything further that is put together, we can get out. Other than that, there's no other meeting document. So,
I'm trying to find the chat. It's not showing up right now.
here's something to chat.
I know, but where is it?
More. Is it under more?
No,
Is it your thing under chat or where is it?
usually it's right here
Yeah, where do you need the chat for?
to give them the directions to do the survey.
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, I have a presentation.
Did you have another one of these on your computer?
Yeah. See if this works.
This is what they've used at the selectmen's meeting. Yes. This is what I was trying to see if we can get. I have.
Do you know how, does it automatically work?
Yes, it just listed. Can you guys hear us better with this microphone setup? This is the one I was trying to get that the selectmen use.
Yeah.
I don't know, is it supposed to be red?
Okay. So hopefully this will work better for you guys on the Zoom with the microphone here and being able to hear everybody. Is your PowerPoint going to have like music in the background and stuff? No?
No, sorry. So we're here to discuss the Woodstock Affordable Housing Plan. This is the public information meeting. We did go over this a little bit last time, so some of it may be a repeat. I was kind of hoping there'd be some other people who did not attend this at the last meeting, but it's always good for a refresher. What is affordable housing? I can maybe just breeze through this a little bit faster since we went through this last time. So the formal affordable housing, that's defined by the Connecticut state statutes that costs less than 30% of the income of a household earning 80% or less of the area median income. This level is adjusted for household size, and that area that they're referring to is in the census. So we're not comparing all of Connecticut. We're not comparing, say, Woodstock with Putnam. We're using Wyndham County.
However you want to handle it, David.
Sure, there's not that many people here. I guess we could, yeah. Well, they have a whole schedule and it shows you what that income would be considered for a single family for a single person, and then it goes up by family size. 2, 3, 4, 5, then it goes up to 8 people. Well, they give you a value of what they consider to be that threshold. And so they have the area median income, and then they have a value that represents 30% of that. 30% of the 80% of the area median income. It gets a little complicated when you start comparing percentages, but.
I'm sorry, Jeff. All I'm
Yeah.
hearing is Delia. I'm not hearing any other commissioners.
We can do with this microphone.
Doug, this is Joe. My question is, household income, whether there are 2 people in the house or 5 people in the house.
It's adjusted for family size, so there's a value based on each size of the household going up to 8 people.
So basically, they have all these tables for households of 2, households of 3, households of 4.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
And in the actual document, I can have some of that information. That's a little more advanced than what I was gonna do for this evening.
but if it's information people would like to see, or if there's a link to it, depending on how big the document is, sure.
So this table, hopefully you can see it from where you're sitting and online. This is the the Department of Housing's 2020 Affordable Housing Units list. They do this list every year. And I selected the towns in NECOG and showed their values for all of the data that they have on the list. Their list includes every town in the state. I'm just showing the towns in NECOG. And the column on after the towns, the 2010 census, even though the title says 2020, that number for the percentage is based on the last available census. So now it's quite out of date because the 2020 census data hasn't been fully provided to the department that makes this list. And the other values, the 2020 government assisted, the 2020 tenant rental assistance, the single family CHFA, USDA mortgages, and the 2020 deed restricted, those values are updated on an annual basis. So I feel that's a kind of a flaw in the system, but the state isn't going to go out and reach out to all the towns every single year. They just base that first column on the census. But as you can see, Woodstock is very low to the bottom. According to the table from the state, Woodstock is at 1.56%. That value is truly going to be different because we've had a number of homes built since 2010, and we have had no deed restricted units built, and all the other columns have been updated. So I'm not sure how they compare to what was there in 2010, but all the other columns are updated every year.
Jeff,
Yes.
Delia's presentation isn't showing up on our screens. I'm not sure if it is
Oh.
on Nancy's.
Nancy, are you able to see it? Because we
Just
have it.
stop share. I mean, I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah, her thing says it's sharing.
Well,
And we
all we're
have-
seeing is Woodstock Affordable Housing Plan. And it doesn't, I have it on my phone from Delia's, or Ashley's email earlier today.
Well,
But-
let's see. Try stop sharing, Delia, and share again and see if we can get it to go. Thanks for letting us know, Doug, because it's saying it's sharing the screen. For some reason, if your guys aren't seeing it,
All we're seeing is the title page.
let's see. What are you seeing
There we go.
now? Are you seeing the?
I see slide 5.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
Does it
that's
have-
great.
Does it have the table?
yep,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
So that was the table that I was referring to. Does anyone have any questions since you couldn't see it before?
I think.
I looked at it earlier tonight, so before the presentation, so thank you.
Well, just one thing, comment I want to make is this is based upon what the state is defining. Based upon their criteria for affordable,
Yeah.
which is a bit different. I mean, because their numbers don't take into account what different towns' infrastructure and things like that are actually able to accommodate. This is more just using the one set of definitions the state has, correct, Delia?
Yes.
Yep.
So that's what I plan on factoring into the actual plan. I'm not sure if you've heard of Desegregate CT or Desegregate Connecticut, but they've had a huge effort over the last year plus to increase the development of affordable housing. And their effort is completely different. And they have one approach to the whole state. That's not what I'd like to do. I don't think that's appropriate for Woodstock. Their approach is that anything over 0.8 acres is a large lot. And they feel that up to 4 dwelling units per property should be allowed everywhere. I don't think that's going to work very well, especially where you have private wells and septic systems, and we have existing lots that can be of different sizes. Some of our smaller lots obviously are not going to support 4 dwelling units. That's an advocacy group, and they have a huge following. So their approach is really urban-based, and they kind of ignore pretty much everybody else. But
That
they
group is
feel like it
started-
should be around
That
the
group
state.
has been headed by Sarah Bronin, who's Luke Bronin's wife, the mayor of Hartford. She used to be the chair of their planning and zoning. Luke Bronin still happens to be the president or chair of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. So what the Desegregate Connecticut has proposed a number of different things this last legislative session, some of which I actually did send testimony in opposing, because their approach was a one-size-fits-all, but it was dovetailed with other legislation that they were supporting, which was that they came up with this group called Fair Share that came up with these formulas, very different from the state formulas, to say, this is how much affordable housing the state of Connecticut needs. The cities tend to have more of it because of their demographics than towns. So Fair Share was saying that's unfair. It needs to be distributed around the state. So they came up with the number of affordable housing units each town and city should have as a minimum. And if you don't meet it within a certain time frame, there'd be a penalty. That penalty would go to a fund. That fund would be distributed to the cities, hence Fair Share. That was panned in the legislature by some people, saying it's really draconian. How could rural towns that really don't have infrastructure for big affordable housing units be able to meet that mark? So that was not passed. Some of what Desegregate Connecticut wanted was a lot of these changes that we've dealt with in zoning. There's more proposals they have for this legislative session, and this type of thing is going to come up again to say, let's bring it back up again. I agree with Delia. Some of that is very difficult for rural towns to meet. How's a town like Union or Eastford or Woodstock going to meet a huge number of affordable housing units when we have no major public infrastructure to support it or the jobs? the constructive counter to that proposal was look at the towns based upon what type of town they are and where they are. So you can't compare Glastonbury to Woodstock or to New Haven. You know, they're different. So this whole issue about affordable housing is going to come back up again in the legislature through a number of bills that are likely being proposed. So I think it will be very interesting to see what the legislature does. That is a private group. If you wanted to learn more about them, they have a website, Desegregate Connecticut, I think .com and .org. Then you can go on and read their stuff and their proposals and things like that. That's there if you wanted to. They have various information. I actually pointed out to them last year that their data on Woodstock was wrong. They actually listed that we didn't allow accessory apartments. So I pointed it out to them that we actually have allowed it for decades. So, but I encourage you to go and look up some of this stuff because it's very interesting. A lot of the proposals and how it may or may not fit for Woodstock.
Other thing which I think is a challenge, or I'm not quite sure the correct word, really the only category that's on that chart that you can do anything about is the deed restricted units. The town has no control over how many government assisted units, how many units get tenant rental assistance, or the mortgages. There's nothing the town can do to increase those. I called the Department of Housing that issues this list and asked them what we could do, and they said there's nothing we can do. The only thing you can do anything about is the deed restricted units. So unless you have some deed restricted units in town, you could increase that percentage. Now, something you could do is you could create some additional senior housing, because the new Roxbury Village, that's some of these affordable units. So you could develop more of those, and that's something that I'm gonna be looking into when I draft the thing and when I bring the data to you. I think you should consider that. There's a very long waiting list to get in there, and there's a very limited number of units. That probably is, well, the 24. New Roxbury Village, I believe, is 24 units, so that's probably where those are. But I think there's a different way. That's not going to be done through zoning, but the housing authority could perhaps seek some funding, and then they would have to go through the process to get them built. But that's not something the commission can do, and it's not something you can do in zoning. And the housing authority is sort of separate from the municipality. It's very complicated how it's managed and how it's funded and that sort of thing. I don't believe you can get more government assisted, more tenant rental assistance or more mortgages. I don't know. I was told that there's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is the informal affordable housing, the other thing I would like to talk about.
But one thing, just to follow what you said, Delia, about the senior housing, that is actually something of interest, because even if it isn't something per se we can put in the zoning regs, if it's something in general that can be helpful, we should feel free to comment upon it if we think it's something that's a positive, to say, hey, we can't put this in the zoning regs, but by the way, this is something that would be helpful for seniors, and the town can have a role in that and see where that goes. I think we shouldn't limit ourselves in that regard if we think that might be something helpful or constructive. Of course, it will come down to money, and a lot of that type of stuff does have to look into what the state and the feds will give. But still, I think it's something that's important, since affordability for seniors is not a minor issue.
So I invited the housing authority to the meeting. I sent them the paper survey and the link so they could do it if they chose to do it online. A few of the people on the housing authority were in Florida for the next couple of months, but they were interested in seeing the recording of the meeting. And I was told I should reach out to someone at the Putnam Housing Authority, because they actually do the management, and they could get me some information, because I asked if they had any plans for expansion and that sort of thing.
Did you have something, Joe?
Right.
Jeff, we still can't hear the other commissioners. My frustration,
Once,
my frustration limit is at I'm done. I
Yeah.
think the commission needs to make a reasonable accommodation for people who do not want to risk their health and attend meetings in person. When you do make that accommodation and you make these meetings available for me, I will rejoin the commission. But for now, I'm done. This is the third meeting I've tried to participate in Zoom. It has not worked. And my frustration is I'm at the limit. So good night. Let me know when you can suitably host a Zoom meeting.
I'll bring it up again to the selectmen and to Crystal about what further arrangements we can get, but this is as best as we're able to, it seems, to get. There's no other equipment that the town has, so I'm not certain why we're having
It's not working.
yeah, I'm not certain why. I think we're gonna have to look into. The other issue is whether or not, well, it'd be tough to meet up in the selectmen's conference room because we have a lot of people in the public. There's no accommodation for that.
Nancy, can you hear me?
Are you having any problems hearing others, Nancy?
I can catch snippets of it, but it's not 100% clear. I can hear Delia, I can hear you wonderfully. And Dr. Gordon, I can hear you absolutely wonderfully. And then people who are close to you, I can hear well, but the further it goes out, the less I'm able to hear.
One thing I think I'll probably have to do then is talk with the higher ups about whether or not we can get more than one of these.
I just want to test this to see. Are you listening? Can you hear this any better, Nancy?
She's nodding her head.
Yeah,
So maybe
so we may have to get
get
up
more of
and
them.
kind of talk into the microphone. Yeah.
We could. So
Okay,
what
so I
we'll,
guess this is working, but
so what I'll do is, I'll touch base with the powers that be to see if we're able to get a couple of more of these. To have, because we have one here, if we have one over there, over by you guys.
If I could get my phone to work, I would zoom into the
Yeah,
meeting.
so
It's
we'll have to look
used to
into
saying
that
that
to see
it's
what
not
we
going
might be able
online.
to get. So.
It,
I'll look into it.
if I could just add, it does pick up. You know, I don't think you have to talk directly into it. I am able to hear, and it could just be the difference of computers too. I don't know, but I'm able to hear more than apparently Doug was. But again, it's not 100% crystal clear, but I'm getting the gist of things.
So what we'll do is, I think I will tomorrow send a follow-up. Let's see what we can do actually, if we're able to get any more of these, because it sounds like when you talked into it, it was better. If we have one over by there and one over here, maybe that will be better. Yep. Small rooms, which would be a problem, trying to have people spaced out anyway. But if this works, then if we have a couple of them, then I think that would be better. Especially if someone's talking and you're over there, you have a microphone and one of you guys can move the microphone, then we could see what to do. I don't know how much this costs, but I can't imagine they're that expensive that the town can't get a couple of more. Or we can't somehow see if we can get them out of even our budget or something. But that is a valid point about making certain, also members of the public, we don't happen to have any on tonight, but members of the public, or if an applicant wants to zoom in and not come, that's a very valid point. So we're limited in what rooms we can meet in. So let's see what we're able to do, try to. Yes. Well, I was trying to make certain that we can get this, so at least we have this that we should be able to use, but I can talk with them, and then you as well can talk with them, maybe that could move to see if we can just get a couple more than, we don't need fancy ones. So as long as that would probably then work. Okay, so why don't we see if we can, what we can do about that. So you can follow up with me and we can see what we might be able to do. They're like $100 to $200 to just have. Some of them are even wireless. So the one I have is wireless. We would have to, so, all right, so we'll look into it. I just sent a text to Doug that we'll see what more equipment we can get from the town. So, all right. Thank you, Ash. All right, Gail, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. So, there's the other kind of affordable housing. That's the kind that is not deed restricted. It's not on that chart. But it, so the downside is it's not regulated or in any way guaranteed to remain at a certain price or rent, but occurs at a low enough cost as to be affordable to many people without public sector assistance. It's owned and managed by the private sector, and the cost or rent subject to fluctuation based on the market. And so what is an affordable housing plan? It's what the state says it is, basically. And the state says that every town has to have one and has to update at least once every 5 years, with the goal to undertake a proactive planning process and lay out a strategy for meeting the housing needs of existing and future residents and workers. The plan must specify how the municipality intends to increase the number of affordable housing units in the municipality. That's the thing, the challenge, because unless you have a plan to increase the number of deed restricted units, I don't know what else you would put in the plan. But I think a good plan should address how you will increase the affordable housing, the formal and the informal, because I think there is quite a bit you can do to increase the informal affordable housing. So this is how the plan will be created. We're reaching out to the public with meetings, with that survey that's online. And I'm going to be doing a needs assessment, which I look at the demographic data, the income data, that kind of stuff. And then we'll develop goals and strategies that comes out of all the information we get from the public meeting, this one and on the 17th, and from the survey. And then we hold a public
Can I
hearing.
just mention one thing?
Yeah.
I think it's also important people understand when we talk about affordable housing. You know, because in general, when the public hears about affordable housing, they're going to think about, well, how much do I have to pay in taxes, and how much does it cost to build my house, or, you know, renovate my house? And some of those, like, this commission doesn't have control over taxes, and we don't have control over labor and construction costs. So I think it's important that we do remind people that there are limitations to what affordable housing plan can address. However, at the same time, let them know what an affordable housing plan can address. Just, I think, to set some reality for some people, because for example, there was some chatter on Facebook about that we're having an affordable housing plan, and of course that seemed to go off to some people talking about that there's too much, we pay too much in taxes. We can say all we want in an affordable housing plan about taxes, but that's not in our zoning regs. So I think it's helpful to and you know this, Delia, but I think it's important to let people know what really is it we can do and what is it that we can't do. So that way they don't think that some type of this affordable housing plan is going to solve every single problem that people might view about affordable, even though we're looking at affordable from a certain angle. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So as I'm sure everyone, or I hope everyone in this room knows, that there's the majority of town is in the community district with the smaller lake and industrial park districts. It's primarily residential and agricultural uses with limited other uses by home occupation, special permit, and grandfathered uses predating the adoption of zoning on January 1st, 1992. Here's your zoning map. So up until the zoning map was approved in 2013, we didn't have a zoning map, but we had zoning, which was kind of hard to explain to people when I was a zoning officer. But you can see most of the town is community district. The funny thing about that is that it's abbreviated CD in the assessor's office. I can't tell you how many realtors assume that when they're looking at a business, that it's in the commercial district. But it's always confusing for them. So here's the summary of what's allowed for your residential uses. Here's where you can consider if you wanted to make changes. You already allow single-family homes and accessory apartments, that's great. And you recently changed the size of the accessory apartment, which should make a difference for the informal affordable housing. There's room for movement and for discussion on the multifamily. We can consider that. And then for subdivision, I think a lot of changes were made that should be helpful. A couple years ago, when you allowed for there to be different options. With different options, there will come developments at different prices.
One thing about multifamily, that is on our kind of to-do list. We had put that on our strategic plan to-do list to say we wanted to look back at multifamily again. This is an opportunity as part of this to look at it, but also see what we think. But when we decided we wanted to relook at it at a later time, it was more about what is the actual process we have and some of the standards. But we never made any changes in that. We just kind of talked about it some years ago and then left it for a later date. I think it is a valid point, Delia, that if we're going to be looking at affordability and stuff, some affordability is what happens outside of a single family. And the Woodstock has a number of multifamily infrastructure around, so to speak. So.
And we have types of housing in Woodstock that's not on the chart because it's not in the regulations. We have condominiums and we have apartment buildings that have on limited number of occasions, multiple units per structure. That's not in the zoning regulations, so it's not on the chart because I wouldn't be able to summarize them in a general way because there's not enough of them to be general. But for the next meeting, I could look into how many different condo developments and apartment complexes we have and how many units are in them. But that's another option that you could consider.
Also, right now, we don't allow duplexes, and we've had some discussions in the past about revisiting that as part of overall multifamily. I forget when the prohibition went in. I wasn't on the commission at the time, but that was some time ago. We do have some duplexes in town, but there was a prohibition put in.
And
So,
the funny thing is, many towns consider multifamily to not start until it's 3 units. Most towns have single-family homes, duplexes, and then multifamily is 3 or more. So if you break it down, that's another way to consider making a change. So some of these slides were intended to be viewed by people who are not familiar with the regulations. That's why I'm sure you're familiar with them, but it was written for a wider audience. So with a simple zoning permit, you can get a single family home, and that allows for the accessory structures, the garages, the pools, the decks, the sheds, things like that, and the accessory apartments. And what kind of housing is allowed with a special permit? Right now, it's multifamily. So I suppose if someone wanted to do a condo, because condo is really more about the ownership, not so much about how it's designed, but the condominiums, I think, would be considered multifamily because they share a structure. So together, the structure that's linked has multiple units within the structure. But multifamily is, I think, usually not set up like a condominium, but I think it would be considered that. It's just right now what you have doesn't follow the current regulations because we require 10 acres and a maximum of, I think, 4 units per structure. And I think the condominiums that you have more in a row than that. Right now, I don't think it would be allowed because it exceeds what you have for multifamily. We have big setbacks. We have setbacks between structures. We have a maximum of 4 units per structure. That kind of thing.
But those are all things we should look at, to see what works, what is not workable, what might need to be adapted, where we stand, with stuff. So, correct. Yep. No,
And just, as I said, this was intended for a wider audience. Zoning is about the use of land. Subdivision is about dividing up the land. And how the land is used goes back to zoning. So this is about division of property into smaller properties. It's a different set of regulations than zoning. Happens to be the same group of people that makes the decision, but it's a different statute, different responsibility. So here's where we get started on the input. First, I have a few questions for you to get to know you a little better, and then we move on to the SWOT. So Nancy, I can't get the chat to work for some reason, but if you had a cell phone, it would work really easy where you type in that polev.com/Maureen Adams 304. And I know it seems really funny. It says Maureen Adams. Our account with Poll Everywhere, which is the survey software, is through NECOG, and the administrator's name is Maureen Adams. And the software is great, but for a huge upgrade, you get the tiny improvement of changing that to your choice word. So we weren't gonna pay for like a massive upgrade just to be able to change the name, because everything else seems to work fine. So if you have your phone with you, you can type in polev.com/Maureen Adams 304 on your phone, and then you can do the survey that way. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the chat to work. Otherwise, you'd be able to use
but it's a QR code.
yes, you could also use the QR code if you have a QR reader. Nancy, are you able to do that?
I'm going to check if I can do it right now.
No, this is a different survey. This is survey for this meeting. So get out your phone so you can do the survey.
Okay, so the QR code works. If you hover over it on your camera, it'll come up and you just click it, and so it works.
Well, what Joe was referencing was the Survey Monkey survey, which yes, is the link on the town website, and has been posted at other stuff.
Questions for this meeting?
So I guess you're using this deal, you're just during the meeting, or if there was any members of the public as well. Just kind of a survey during the meeting type thing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. It says 17 questions. Are you wanting us to go through every single question?
If you want to do one at a time,
Okay.
yep. Oh,
So I guess I have to respond.
I have to stop sharing and share again because it says sharing and it wasn't sharing.
I gotta say how old I am. My son says I'm an old man.
If anybody doesn't have their phone, they can use my phone to do the survey. Did you want mine? I can do it for me if you want me to tell you, but some of the questions you can type in your answer. So if you want to use my phone.
Because you're how old? 21? You're 21? I know you're old enough to drink, so it has to be 21.
I don't know why it's not showing the correct thing on the screen.
Doesn't
I
want
don't
to pull it
know
up on the
why
screen.
it's not working. This is ridiculous. Nancy, what are you seeing on your screen?
Right now, I only see the two of us.
And how about now?
I can see the first question on the survey.
Okay. Well, I can share it with you. You can see it from my. Everybody is.
Well, we're able to see you.
Have a phone to answer. Nancy?
I don't know if everybody heard me, but the QR code does work on your phone beautifully. If you hover over it, I pulled it right off when you had it up on the screen. I hovered over it with my phone and it came right up and I clicked on it and the poll is right on my phone now.
And I think some of these questions, Celia, or any of the questions that are in the Survey Monkey, hopefully we'll get a large number of people who will participate in that, and we'll be able to really see some good data
Okay,
off of that one. I know it's a little bit limited because it's just right now amongst a number of commissioners, but still, there is that Survey Monkey that's out there. So, you know, if any of you haven't yet done that survey, definitely participate in that. So,
totally different set of questions.
but hopefully we'll get a lot of responses from it.
So we're gonna move on to the next question. So how long have you lived in town?
Oh, where's the next question? Oh, next.
Go push the screen down so you go up and submit and hit next.
Hey, there's even one that says, I've lived here my whole life.
So you can check that one plus however many years if you want. Because
Wow, 50% have said I've lived here my whole life.
it doesn't tell me how many people responded. So has everyone responded?
You want to let us know what the numbers are?
Yeah, I'll be able to download all the slides, the
While
results.
we're here.
Oh, 10 to 19, 20% for, I'm sorry, 10 to 19 years, 20%, 20 plus years, 40%. I've lived here my whole life, 40%. And no one responding with the other options. So the next question is, why do you live in Woodstock? Up with the projector.
I don't know. You seem to be having some AV connection or Zoom stuff as far as why it doesn't want to fully share the screen, but who knows?
So has everyone had a chance to answer why you live in Woodstock? So the response to live near family is 20%. Oh, and you can select as many as you want. I'm sure some people have more than one reason. Has everyone responded? So, well, I'll wait until it stops changing.
Oh, that's a good point.
How do I drag it? I don't know where to put it. Where do I move it? I don't only have one screen in here. Okay, and what am I dragging?
Oh, that whole screen over?
Yeah, Last time I did this, it worked. Oh, here we go.
Second screen only. There you
Oh,
go.
there we go.
Can you see that, Nancy? That worked. Thanks, Steve. We'll keep you on the commission.
But now everybody can see the responses. So we can move on if everyone's had a chance to respond. So what kind of housing have you lived in during your lifetime so far? Check all that apply. So if you'd like, because you wanted to do the public information meeting at the 17th, we could do the survey again if you think there'll be more people there.
We'll see who attends. Yeah, yeah.
So we'll give you another minute or so to respond. I purposely put the housing types not in any sort of order. I didn't want to seem like I'm implying something is better than another, so it's not in, it's all mixed up.
Military housing.
Wishing it a private.
Has everyone had a chance to respond? Moving on to the next question. Have you ever struggled to pay your living expenses, including your rent, mortgage, or property taxes? Or do you know someone who struggles or has struggled to pay their rent, mortgage, and or property taxes? I include taxes because if you have an expensive house, your tax will be higher. If you have a smaller house or perhaps a more modest house that hopefully would be more affordable, the taxes would be lower. I think if we only look at that income with the area median income, we're not taking into account all the other things that everyone has to afford. And like Jeff was talking about, when you think about where people live, it's not just what they're paying for their house. If you live out in the country, and I believe I grew up out in the country in a small town on a dirt road, I believe you should have the choice to live there. But I personally think that it's different if the government is promoting housing in a certain place, where if you live in that, you can only live there if you have a limited income. If there's also jobs aren't there, you can't walk to somewhere, so that before you need a car, that's going to increase your expenses and the rest of your life. So if everyone's responded, we can move on to the next question. Is there a housing type that could work in Woodstock that is currently
Houseboat.
missing?
We do, that's true.
You gotta have a houseboat, just put it on the land. There was a boat in front of someone's house for most of the time I worked in Woodstock.
There are several of those around. Yep. Hopefully they're not living in the boat.
So if everyone's had a chance to respond here. So the diversity of housing, I'm asking if that is a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat. So now it's evenly distributed along strength, weakness, and opportunity. Has everyone had a chance to respond? And
Well, I think one thing, that gets to a good point when we use the word opportunity. Some people may talk about, the weaknesses, but, these are opportunities we have to see what we might be able to do better, but also maintain what we think is working well.
Right,
So it's always an opportunity to see what
right.
what
And
can be done moving forward.
I think that a weakness is an opportunity and even a threat. How you choose to address that threat could be your opportunity. And this plan is the opportunity for us to look at what weaknesses may be in Woodstock. And this is specifically about housing. You could do plans that address other types of weaknesses. So in this plan, after we have the public input and the commission provides their input, we will come up with strategies and goals on how to address these issues. And when we were talking about that chart with the other options, condominiums or duplexes versus multifamily and those kinds of things, you can, once you have a discussion on those topics, you can come up with a strategy. And most of those will be to address the informal affordable housing. So, feel free to share, you can type in what you think about. When we're talking about the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats,
Oh, the smiley face? Is that a smiley
it's great commissioners,
Oh, and is that a smiley or a sad?
looks like a sad face
Yeah, I can't.
or worried face.
Bounce under the.
So since we're a small group and we all know each other, is there anything anybody wants to share out loud, or you can type it in? I'll give you another minute. The next question is the zoning permit process for a new home in Woodstock. Is this a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat? Has it, everyone had a chance to respond to this?
And we have taken time over some of the years to address various processes for various types of permitting things, including where we are with subdivisions and things like that. We even did that in zoning regs.
And you can share your reactions and how you feel about the previous slide. There's cows. What kind of reaction is that? I'm not sure what that means. I see everybody's very enthusiastic about that slide. Moving on. And this question is about the subdivision process. If you want to respond to whether you think that's a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat. Everyone had a chance to respond about subdivisions? Feel free to share your reactions about subdivisions. Okay, last call for this question. Rental availability of housing in Woodstock is a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat. While you're finishing up answering that, I'd like to ask on the next slide whether you felt it was a weakness or a threat. If you want to explain why you thought that way, that would provide more useful information for me. Or weakness or opportunity, forgot which one was marked. I see 3 people responded. Does anyone else want to respond? Last call. Considering yourself, your friend, family, friends, and neighbors is the existing price or rent for an existing housing in Woodstock, a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat? Last call for more, anyone to answer SWOT number 5? Moving on. What's your reaction about that last question? Last call. So what one word captures a sense of community in Woodstock?
That's in color.
We have 2 words so far. Is that all we got? You can type in more words if you want. Just, I think you do 1 word at a time. This is making one of those word clouds where the more times people use the same word, it's supposed to make the words that are used more show up larger.
Doesn't mash it all up? Doesn't this all mash it all up, the words up?
I've never done it before, but I've seen it done.
Oh.
Anyone else want to add a word? Last call.
It looks like there was a number of things where people were listing various things as opportunities, which seems to be one of the recurring themes.
Yes, I noticed that too. So if you haven't done the online housing survey, which is totally different set of questions, and it does have quite a number of questions. But so far, when I checked this late this afternoon, we had 188 surveys so far. And that's just since Tuesday. So I'm hoping we can do even better. Canterbury, if you want to beat Canterbury, they had 329 surveys. So tell your friends and neighbors to do the survey.
I did the survey 187, but 188 since Tuesday, so it's up for the entire month.
Yes. And then-
You can try it. But so far, that's not bad. Well, we'll keep on promoting the survey.
So Delia, how come you chose some questions for the public survey that you didn't choose for the survey here? Like,
That survey is much longer and I wanted to get more input. If I ask the same questions, then I won't get more input. I'll get more of the same, and everyone can do the online survey.
I like hear how you make people think it's reference to, you know, the other survey kind of didn't give that idea of thinking to look at the questions.
I think it takes more of a discussion when you talk about SWOTs, because if all you do is say, is it a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat, you're not getting the rest of the detail. I'd have to have, first of all, if your survey gets too long, people don't want to do it. It was already long enough. But in order to do the SWOT, I mean, if we had more time, we could do more surveys and do more online surveys where you could, in the online screen that you ask that question, you could include why you want to talk about a SWOT. So if you think this is a strength, what are the strengths that, like, what about it makes it a strength? Why is it a strength? If you thought it was both weakness and a strength, why? Because you could, the same person could think the same thing about something. And you could have two different people have different answers. So it depends on, you'd have to really explain your answer to get useful information out of it. If we just counted up how many SWOTs we got, that's not going to be very useful. In order to derive enough useful information to make those strategies, we need the stuff that goes along with it, which is hard to do in an online survey. But I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of useful information, and especially if we get more people to do the survey. I believe it builds credibility and trust that people will believe this plan is made for them. It's not my view on what Woodstock should do.
Well, we've gotten information out via social media. We've gotten stuff into the paper, the Villager. You know about it. I know the town itself has sent stuff out to remind people. So we'll just continue to remind people of the survey and of the link, and you know.
I tried to bring
where
the
we stand.
survey to the libraries. I was gonna go to 3 of them on Saturday, but the snowstorm didn't
And
allow me
Sweetie
to.
of
So I-
Olympus says they'll let us put it up on the bulletin board and have surveys there.
Yeah, I dropped it off earlier this week, and I have
Yes.
one more library tomorrow to drop off surveys. The other 3 have them already. So does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions other than I'll state again, it looks like we all, you know, a lot of us understand that these are opportunities, which is good. And I really would look forward to seeing what the public has to say and see what some of the things they're thinking of and what are some of the ideas that. And as we're going through this, one of the things we always have to be mindful of, what then might we look at in the regs that we might have to then deal with, because if we come up with whatever plan, you know, there has to be some type of action behind it, and our purview would be to do with the regs. We may identify that some of the stuff we've already done has been helpful moving the process forward. And there's some other things, let's say multifamily, that we haven't really looked at or whatever. Or, so I think, any of us who, if there's any ideas, we come up with, looking at the regs and understanding, as commissioners, how we use the regs and how we see applicants use the regs. I think it would be good for us to, send them in. And then we can be looking at that list. So we don't forget about any of it. We can keep, that centralized list. So as we're gelling this more, we can actually see exactly where we might be able to make some changes. I have been, yes. Mhm.
Well, if you want to send it to me, I don't have time to watch it, but if you want to send me the comments, maybe I can address them. Somehow.
I'm on it, and I've noticed some people have shared the survey link. There's been comments about affordable housing, and it turns into discussions about taxes, which is out of our purview. But, yeah, some of it has been about, I actually talked with someone who had contacted me via Messenger, wanting to know what actually affordable means. Like what's our definition? So I explained that, there's affordable the way the state criteria are, but there's also, affordable as far as in general, what do we think separate from the state criteria? So
So
type
that's
of
what I'm
stuff.
calling attainable.
Yeah, we used to call it affordable capital A and affordable with a little a, but attainable is another term for it. So, but that's a good point, Joe, is because some people will be using Woodstock, Proud, or whatever, as kind of their own sounding discussion thing that's separate from the survey. And sometimes it's, you can pick up things that way, especially if it's a long thread that people really want to start talking on. Yep.
If they want to find out, I hope they participate in the next meeting. So you had advertised that you're going to do another public meeting on the 17th. So do you want me to do the same thing, or you want me to change it up a little, or? Because there may be different people who didn't hear the rest of the presentation.
We can see also who attends, and we try to let people know about the meetings. That information's gone out. But as you know, some people are able to attend, some aren't, although we have the Zoom opportunity. So we'll have to just keep on plugging away, reminding people about the meetings. People were notices to, or stuff did go out about when our meetings are, but you've got to keep on reminding people of it. So, but if people think there's anything additional you should ask, or ask in a different way, by all means, let her know. So.
Can't change the online survey right now because the people who've already done it wouldn't get the change. I figured no one would want housing there, but I guess I should have included, it was just, we were only including 4 on all the survey towns we're doing the survey for. It was set up to do 4. I mean, I could have done 5, but I showed everybody the draft and I didn't hear any comments about changing it, so. Well, the survey we did this evening was not a Survey Monkey. The one that's online is done by a website called Survey Monkey. This is Poll Everywhere, which is interactive. Yeah, we could have written on a giant thing and had everybody write their thing in stick it
That's
on.
correct, right? You would have to do that type of thing and then they would fall off the board. So, and whatever.
Or you'd say, I can't read that writing. What does that say?
That's right. Here. Does anybody have anything else for tonight about the whole idea of tonight was just kind of go through this presentation and some of the questions and whatever. We'll continue to push the public notices out there to remind people about the survey, remind people about the our meetings. Nancy.
I just wanted to say thank you to Delia because as a newer commission member, I just feel that your presentation and your professionalism and your help in all of this has just been fantastic. So thank you. I think just great job across the board.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Delia. Hopefully we'll get more members of the public to do the survey and get more input. So when we have our meeting in 2 weeks, you can give us an update about how many more people we have doing the survey. Okay.
I never did get a clear answer if you wanted a story back, which we're getting a late start here because we had to wait until last week, so.
You feel we need?
It'll be a little bit late but it might be good moving forward. It's just under the time crunch, it'd be hard to do that as well as everything else.
Does anybody have anything else relative to Delia's presentation? This is the only thing on the agenda for tonight. This is going to be on the agenda for the meeting, the business meeting in 2 weeks, in addition to whatever applications we may or may not get. So we'll be continuing to follow through. Anyone else who attends, commissioners, members of the public will go through stuff, but we'll also continue to move forward on whatever work we're doing through the timeline.
Were you not able to get onto the free Wi-Fi? Oh, and do you have a QR code reader? Because that works really well.
Well, if you just go right through your camera, it will pick it up. Pull up your camera.
That doesn't work that way in my phone. I have to
Apple
download it.
phones.
What
it
is it?
does.
If you would just. That's what Dean did. Mine wouldn't go from here though.
Okay.
But I typed it in.
Yeah, no, we can.
I have a Google phone, so mine doesn't do that. So I had to
They have
download
phones,
it.
do
I had to download a QR reader and then you just click on it like an app and it looks like a camera, but it only does QR codes.
Well, if we don't have anything else, then. Let me just mark this down. Motion by Timothy Young, that's you, Mark, who's second. Seconded by Mark Wagner to adjourn. I have to technically go through the roll because we have Nancy on the Zoom. So I have to go through a roll. So Joe Adaletta, Mark Wagner, aye. Nancy Frazier,
Aye.
Jeff Gordon, I'll say aye. Dean Gould, Joe Poole. Headquarters not on, so we say no. Here, and Timothy Young, that passes. Whatever time you have a. So we will, number one, work on trying to see what more we can do to make it easier for people on Zoom to hear with the microphones. Hopefully we can get some more, and then we'll follow through with where we are on this and continue to plug away, reminding the public about our meetings and about the ways they can participate in to do the survey. Yes, it is. It's fully available for the public. This is a full hybrid meeting, the way these are being set up. So the public can attend. So when we used to set it up that way, it was only for commissioners. So we're now setting it up completely hybrid.
Yep. So any member of the public can attend by Zoom if he or she wishes. Absolutely. Yep. Yep, that's how we have it set up now. Yes. Well, thank you, everybody.